Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of the podcast for Toronto Realtors. A little bit about myself, obviously, because this is a new direction that we're going in. I was the host of the Real Marketer podcast, and I wanted to create something that's much more tailored to a local Toronto-based audience. And the way that we're launching this podcast is what we're calling the Icon series. So it's an 8-part series where we are going to go after the biggest names in Toronto real estate and really just get a feel for what the future of the industry is going to look like, again, particularly on a local level. So for the first episode, I'm thinking, who's the biggest fish that I could go and get? And we brought the man himself, Richard Silver. So Richard, before I kind of give you the floor, let me, I know you're a little bit too modest to gas yourself up like I'm about to. So just give me about 20 seconds to introduce you properly.
Okay.
Currently, you are running Silver, Burtnick and Associates with Sotheby's International. In terms of the experience that you have kind of at the greater, on a greater level, you are the former president of the Toronto Real Estate Board, as well as the former director of large for the Canadian Real Estate Association. You were named in 2013 one of Inman News's top 100 most influential people in real estate, which is obviously a super high designation, as well as you're an Inman Connect Luxury Ambassador. You have a ton of experience with luxury and urban properties, as well as global real estate markets. And then something that I personally love about talking with you is you're big into AI, which is not something that you see every day, where you've got someone who's a titan and a veteran in the industry, not somebody who's, let's say, 35-year-old up and coming talking about AI, but someone who's been there and done that and had an incredibly successful career the traditional way, or at least during more traditional times, and yet you're still coming forward and being like, let's keep pushing forward and let's look to the future. So before we get into AI, and I want to get into that in just a moment, first off, thank you for coming on to the show.
Pleasure. See, if you're in the business for 45 years, you get to be an icon.
There you go. Like I said, I mean, there's a pretty impressive resume there. I just blitzed through them. But of everything that we mentioned there, or maybe something that I didn't mention, what are you the most proud of?
You know what? I really enjoyed being a member of the Toronto Real Estate Board. There was a time when there was a lot of changes going on. I started before we even brought in the Stratus format that we've been using for now almost 20 years, I suppose. And there's been lots of changes. And the thing about real estate is there's always changes. It's always adapting to them. We have, I think, 2 or 3 new acts since I've been licensed. So there's always a lot to learn. It's never boring, you have different experiences with your buyers and your sellers, but there's also board issues, the real estate council issues, and CREA issues. And things always come up and there's always change, so you never get bored.
So what would be the thing, I guess, that you're the most excited to tell people about from your career?
You know what? I guess just all the change that I've lived through. I started off, there was absolutely, we would go to a payphone if we had to connect with somebody. There was no way we could pick up a cell phone. There was nothing like that. We wrote offers on Selectric typewriters with carbon copies, and there was no DocuSign. I think one of the things I'm most proud of is probably a long time ago, I saw DocuSign at a conference. I signed up as a tester of DocuSign, and I brought DocuSign to the Ontario Real Estate Association. I pushed it through that we be able to start using DocuSign rather than just faxes. So that's been great, absolutely great right now. It's been a wonderful experience.
So speaking of how things are changing always, I think we are in the middle of a revolution at the moment, or whatever you want to call it, where things are being done one way, and then tomorrow we're going to look back and it's going to be like, how do we ever get by without it? And that is obviously AI. So how do you think AI is going to shape the future of this industry?
You know what? I think agents who are using AI are going to see a big time saving. I know with myself, I'm saving at least 20% of my day by using AI. I'm doing all sorts of things I never thought I would do. I actually, I think I told you I was in Mexico and I had a blood test for some sort of upcoming test that I was going to do, and I couldn't understand what the blood test said. I threw it into my chat GPT. I asked them to translate it. I asked them to give me a report. Were there any issues? And it was done done. And basically, it also suggested you might want to talk to your doctor about A, B, and C, but at least it gave me a bit of a background to have a conversation with them. So I think what AI can bring to the table, not only in real estate and the applications that we use for it, but also just in our life, I think you're going to see a lot of changes, when it comes to how much data we can get and what we can glean from the data.
What might that look like in real estate?
Real estate, Toronto Real Estate Board produces lots of data, and the data deals with the marketplace. And some people are very, very visual. Some people really like, they like a story told. And I think you can take a PDF of data, you can throw it into, one of the AI platforms, whether it's Canva, whether it's Beautiful.ai, and you can say, okay, make this tenable for somebody who's into visuals, somebody who's into data, somebody who's into, let's here's where my clients are, let's move them towards that, as opposed to say, well, here's the information, this is the only way we're producing it, live with it. We work for a big company, both of us work for big companies, and our company just put out a luxury report, and people are sending it out all across Canada, the United States, the world, this luxury report. Well, what does it mean to my clients in downtown Toronto? I can take that luxury report and I can throw it into ChatGPT and I can say, make this specific for buyers and sellers of real estate in Toronto, and it'll not change the report, but it'll specify the report. It'll make it more palatable for a client. And I think that's really important. That's what they want to know. They want you to talk to them on their level and in the manner in which they want to be talked to, whether that's Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. You can have lots of options now.
I've heard rumblings of agents saying that the progress of AI is almost making the industry, the people in the industry, dispensable or maybe even pointless. What are your thoughts on that?
I still think we're going to need to do a lot of hand-holding, consulting, etc. What it is going to do for us is it is going to, it's going to pull the information a little bit faster than we would normally have. It's going to, get people to maybe make decisions on what it is they're looking for, show them exactly what there is out there in the marketplace. It's going to give, agents who are using it, I think, are going to do a lot better work in a shorter period of time.
Right, so it kind of bridges the gap, but doesn't make it that there is no gap.
Exactly.
Okay.
I still think it's very much a people business. We're still going to be selling, we're still going to be talking about pricing, but it may help us find the product that the client wants faster.
Right. I think that's the challenge that a lot of agents have, is they almost see themselves as selling a product. And Phil Jones, who I think is probably the best sales coach that I've ever seen, to be honest, and he had a great line of, people don't move, they move because. No one's looking to sell their home. There's a reason they're looking to sell their home. It's like, what is that reason? So the product that you're selling is really, let's say, grandparents' ability to be closer to their grandkids. And it really puts everything into perspective.
Yeah, we don't, in general, we don't listen enough. We don't listen enough to what our clients are telling us. We make assumptions. They will actually say something, and then sometimes the activities that they're involved with, you think, they say they're looking for a house, but it seems to me like they're really looking more for a condo. Then, it actually, once you find the right thing for somebody, there's no selling involved, really. I mean, they will do their own sales pitch on it. They will decide, this is what I want, this is my life, this is my lifestyle. That's really important. And I think, to me, selling is actually getting people to accept something they don't want. And I don't want to be a salesperson. I just want to be the person who's going to find them what they do want and let them sell themselves on it.
Do you anticipate AI helping, like once the relationship's been built, do you anticipate AI helping with that process, the discovery process?
Yeah, I think so. There is a lot of new AI tools that you can use. Once we find the product, I can use AI to find out if there's building permits in the building, if there's building permits in the area, what's the zoning allow for in the area. And the AI will spit it out very fast, and it'll allow me to just, Toronto, the great thing about Toronto is we have an open app city, basically, and you can go in and you can find out a lot lot of information through the city as to what's being built. Have permits been applied for in a certain area? Is there going to be building? What's the zoning height restrictions? What's the plan? What's the 10-year plan on the area? There's a lot of information you can glean, and AI is going to help you find it faster.
So stepping back to an earlier stage of the buyer journey, which is lead generation. So has there been any change from what you're seeing in terms of which lead generation strategy is netting the best results?
Huge. But for me, mostly the lead generation that I've been using, and I think is social media. I mean, social media and the internet. I look at the internet, I look at my website as being my wheel. I look at the social media as being the spokes of the wheel. I'm throwing information out there. I want people to come to me, and I want to be the person that they're going to come to ask the questions. And I think just that's the best lead generation I can do. I think there are lead generators out there. I think you have to be very attentive. You have to use your database. You have to, have expectations that are realistic. Most of the lead generators that I have worked with or I've viewed, they take about a year and a half, 2 years of constantly tracking the person and talking to the person before it ends up developing. Sometimes you want to use something that's even longer term. I'll tell you one of the big things I find with realtors, and I got to say it off the top of my, right away, is most realtors are very short-term thinkers. They want to know if you went to A, B, or C city, did you you went to visit all these different agents, how much money did you make by doing it? A lot of it is a matter of name recognition. It's a lot of getting respect in the industry. It's a long-term goal. And just thinking of the dollar you're going to make tomorrow is wrong. You have to be really long-term in your thinking. Definitely.
I'm happy you clarified that, because I was going to ask, I have a lot of experience speaking with agents, particularly around their social media, and they're posting and they're not getting very much engagement, and they're getting very frustrated. So
Yeah.
being that it is a long-term game, I guess the first question that I would ask is, what would you say to these agents that are feeling frustrated, that they're posting and they've been doing it for months consistently and they're getting quote unquote nothing from it? What would you say to those agents?
Well, I'd look at the, what are the topics that they're discussing? Are they putting themselves as the person who's there to answer the questions that the buyer may have? And if that's the case, how many views are they getting? How many reads are they getting? How many people have been passing it on the information to somebody else? Those tracking that is now available is pretty amazing. So if you are out there on the social media and you're not getting a lot of response, it could be that you're talking too much about real estate. You're talking too much about houses. You're talking too much about, and what you need to do is, share some input on who you are, what your thoughts are, what your choices are, health-wise even. You've got to become a real person to them. And you've got to say, you know what, I really like Oliver because Oliver has a lot of the same issues that I have. I mean, and I think it's time for me to give Oliver a call. And I think that's where you want to be. You can't just be, here's Oliver presenting a house. Here's Oliver presenting a deal. It has to be a little bit more personal. You got to, whatever. You show your family, you show your wife, your kids, the dog park that you go to, the places you like to spend for recreation, the place you like to go camping with your friends, or if you want to go, like I do a lot of travel, as you know, in Mexico and stuff. I love Mexico. So I do videos of where I am and why I'm here. And, so if people want information, I can get them information. I can introduce them to people, whatever. I mean, be the connector for your people. Be your connector for your clients, not just I'm presenting. I mean, social media should be social. In other words, you're not just putting it out there, but you're also going to go in and spend an hour every single day, or spend a half hour every single day looking at the posts that other people put and comment on them. Talk to the clients, find out what it is that's interesting to them. I mean, people share incredible information on social media. Their kids have gone to school, their kids just graduated, the kids have left home, they're now empty nesters. They put all that information out there and try and comment without being too self-serving. I mean, great for you. I hope you're enjoying, the time in the empty house. What are you doing with those empty rooms? Are you making them into, your library? You finally get your library. You finally get your private office. Make it very, very personal and less
So I want to post something to you to get your thoughts. I always tell agents that as they're starting out on social media, they shouldn't view it as a lead generation or prospecting source because that's not what it is yet, and it takes time to get to that point. So I say social media certainly does not replace the old-fashioned way of prospecting. Get out, meet more people. But that said, there is a scalability to it that just never existed beforehand. And so
Exactly.
it's almost like there's different levels of social media where first off, nobody sees your posts. It does literally nothing other than tells the algorithm who to show you to and all of that. The second
Right.
thing is it's marketing. So when people see it, when you speak with people, they'll research who you are and they'll see your social media, and it kind of validates or verifies what they want to see or hear or understand about you. And then after that, the stage that very few agents actually get to is other people start seeing it, following it, and engaging with it. And that's when your social media becomes like a funnel and it turns into a
Yeah.
prospecting source. Would you agree with that synopsis?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, definitely. As I said, social media is social. And don't forget that. And social means you're not the only person talking in the room. You've got to be listening, you've got to be talking to the other people. So get out there, and certainly the more you engage with people, the better it's going to be for you. Social media is a wonderful tool, but it basically is as good as you are at being social. And you got to be social. It's the same thing, you walk into a party and you stand by the side of the room, it's not social. You got to get into the middle of the room. You have to dance with everybody. You have to talk to everybody. And that's where you're going to grow.
Given the economic climate in 2024, obviously going into 2025, everything going on in the US, the tariff wars, everything happening,
Yeah.
how do you anticipate the expectations of the sellers will change, or will they change, both in terms of the commissions that they're expecting to pay, the services that they're expecting to receive? How do you expect those expectations to change?
I think we're going through a really tough time right now. The new president of the U.S. loves chaos, and so there will be lots of chaos over the next 4 years. Whether any of it comes to fruition, whether any of it happens, whether the tariffs actually happen, he likes to talk a lot, and there's a lot of threats that go on. It'll be interesting to see what comes of it, what gets passed by their Congress, etc. But it will have an effect on the world. It had an effect the last time. It's going to have an effect again this time. I still think in the long run, we're in a bit of a conundrum in Canada in that we are underhoused still, and yet the government has increased immigration and people want to buy. But then all of a sudden the government brought in a buyer's ban, so you can't have any foreign buyers buying in major centers in Canada, and that's where most people want to live, and that's where their businesses are, in major centers. I mean, you still can buy, I guess, on the outskirts or in rural areas, but those people who might want to leave their home country and move and invest in Canada are not able to. And the sad thing is that I find, and I'm not the only person who said this, we used to think of Toronto as being an international city, a real international city. Well, we can't be anymore. You can't bring in a buyer's ban and say that we are an international city. We're not like London. We used to be able to compete with London and New York and lots of other places, but we are no longer competitive. We've now blocked foreign buyers, and foreign buyers are going to want to come in. They're going to establish businesses. They're going to want to own property. There's ways around it, but it's not a good thing for Canada. At the same time, you've banned foreign buyers, but you've increased immigration. It really doesn't make sense. So we're going to be in a real conundrum. It's not going to be a great fun 4 years over the next 4 years, I think.
So how do you anticipate the role of a listing agent will change for their clients?
I think you have to be aware of all these changes, but the market is the market. You still have to be very aware of what it is that people are wanting and what it is that people are buying, what are people selling, what's important, how important is parking, how important is, renovations, how important is the view. A lot of those things are not going to change. They're the basics in our business. And I think you just have to be very aware of them, but also realize that in many ways, the market has, because of the lack of foreign buyers, I mean, it's not a big, for me, it was a big hit. Other agents, it may not be a big hit for, because they don't deal with as much foreign, but I think it's going to be a hit for myself, and I think it is going to be a big hit for the city. But we'll see what happens. I think at the end of the day, still, To me, it's still about lifestyle. It's still about, the kids are all leaving and I'm now an empty nester and I want to move to a condo, or I'm going to right size into something that is less maintenance and I want to travel. I want to, sell my house and I want to, spend 6 months of the year down south, whatever. Those are still going to be changes that are going to be important. And I think it's just going to be a time when it's going to be very tough figuring out what is really going on. But the best thing you can judge by is the most recent sales. So just keep on following those sales. Be aware of the market. Make sure make sure you get out. Whether you have a client for it or not, get out and look at houses. There's a lot of times we used to go to agents' open houses, and the agents' open houses during the week were filled with agents, whether they had clients for the property or not. It was just about education and be able to say, okay, this is what this house sold for. This is what the value was. How does it compare to my new listing? And agents don't seem to do that anymore. They only go out when it's pertinent to them. And I think they need to go, we used to, seriously, in my early days, I spent the first 2 or 3 years of my real estate career, I would every, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I was out looking at properties that other agents were bringing to the market. And I was following the sale, and I was trying to say, okay, well, that sold for that price because it had a garage as opposed to parking. And to understand what the value difference is between parking as opposed to a garage, that's very important, especially in downtown Toronto. And, I want a Victorian house, but I don't want to live in an area that doesn't have garages. Well, most of the housing stock was built before the car, so you have to judge the expectations of your clients as well. But I think at the end of the day, just know the market as best as you can, and that'll help you through the next 4 years.
Do you anticipate that all of this chaos will increase the perceived value of real estate agents in the minds of consumers?
I hope so. I mean, but it really depends on you also cannot be too taken up into the change. I mean, you just have to realize there will always be change. This is the business that we're in. And we just have to move to the market. Wherever the market is, we're going to move there. We're going to get the job done no matter what it is. Whether you want to buy or whether you want to sell, we'll figure out a way of doing it by doing A, B, and C. You have to stick to that. I as much as I'm not happy with the amount of chaos that we're going to see from the South, from the U.S., I just think, that's the cake we've been baked. We're not going to be able to do much about it. We're just going to have to learn how to deal with it and try and keep your clients calm and try and keep them moving forward.
There's also an opportunity, I think, amidst all of the chaos for real estate agents to differentiate themselves. I think now is the time where the value-focused and relationship-focused agents will really shine through.
Mm-hmm.
What's your thoughts on that?
I think it's really important. There have been some changes, some rule changes. We're under a new act now in, the Trust and Real Estate Act, TRESA. I think you have to know it. You have to know all the forms. You have to be very aware of them. And I think, there's a lot of times I see agents that don't have the background bringing things to the table that I think, no, that's the wrong form. It's not doing what it says it should be doing. We need to clarify that. Part of the thing is I think you have to know more than the person on the other side of the table, just to make sure your clients are protected. I mean, I'm very, very lucky, 45 years in the business, and I have never been sued and never gone to court over anything. Well, there was something went to court with, but I was enjoined in a situation that was not of my making. It was somebody else's making, and because we were one of the recipients of commission on it, we got involved. But the reality is, it's, you just have to be very, very careful. You have to know what the law is. You have to know what the rules are. You have to act, and you have to recognize fraud. A lot of clients will ask you to do things, and at the end of the day, are they trying to hide money from their partner? Are they trying to, use something that their business has offered them that, would enable a fraudulent transaction? And you have to just be aware of it, and you have to say, I'm not going to go down that road, even though I'm going to make money.
Would you say now more so than ever it requires an extra scrupulence?
No, it always did. It always did. But there's a lot of, at the end of the day, a lot of it's just common sense. We always say if it walks like a duck, it's probably a duck.
Yeah.
And I think you just have to be really careful. Sometimes, there is a lot, and I think maybe it's part of social media. There's a lot of people who are they're getting involved in some fraudulent deals, and we're hearing more and more about it.
Do you have any other predictions for the future of the industry in Toronto, as well as how these predictions are going to affect agents?
You know what? There's going to be constant change, and I hear from a lot. I mean, I'm 75 years old. I tell everybody I'm 75, and that's fine. The reality is there are a lot of people who are my age or even younger who say, I don't like the amount of change and I'm going to fight it. And the reality is there's always going to be change in our business. Some for the better, some for the worse. There's a few things I would love to see change. The foreign buyer ban is one of them, just because of what it says about the country. There's another called clear communication, which basically affects the way people can market their houses exclusively. I think that's anti-competitive. I'd like to see that go down the tubes in the next little while, and I know the Competition Bureau is after that, and they're not happy with it as well. And I think that is one of the things that is going to affect. We used to be able to. In the early days, there was a lot of business that was done exclusively. We have, the boards have been pushing for everything to go on MLS. Well, it's not always that people want their properties on MLS. They do want to have some privacy sometimes. But it's just under clear communication, which they brought in a couple of years ago, it's gotten worse, and it's gotten harder for somebody to have privacy. And I think privacy is really important. That's what Canada was built on, is privacy. We have very strong, very good privacy laws, and I think we have to respect them. But we're going to see some changes.
Yeah. To what degree do you think that AI will be adopted, and to what degree do you think that this adoption will change tangibly the future of the industry?
Well, I think there's always going to be agents who are not going to adopt it at all. And that's, to me, they didn't want to adopt the internet, they didn't want to adopt social media, and now they've got AI that is probably even more powerful than either the internet or social media, because it can do so many things. And I think you're going to find that AI is going to be there. Agents that use AI are going to be more successful than agents that don't use AI. And I think that's the real, if somebody says to me, well, it's, just way beyond me and I'm not really interested in it, I think they need to clarify why they're feeling a little bit pulled by it. A lot of people will say, well, there's going to be bad actors with AI. Well, there was bad actors with the internet. We've learned to live with it. There's bad actors with social media. We've learned to live with them. We'll learn to live with bad actors in AI, but the benefits of AI far outweigh the problems we may find.
Well, thank you so much for coming on to the show. That just about wraps up our time. Before I do let you go, I have one question that I want to ask.
Uh-oh.
For any ambitious agents listening to this, you're going to hear from the legend himself. What is one piece of controversial advice that you would give to agents that are looking to really thrive in this coming year?
I don't know that it's controversial, but I would just say think long term. Just think long term. Don't think short term. Don't think how much money I'm going to make today. Think of how much business you're going to be doing tomorrow by just acting responsibly and being the person that people want to come to. Be that source. I have a friend of mine, Adorna Carroll, who is a teacher, and she says you always want to be the source of the source, but not the source. So if I could explain that to you, you'd say, I'm the person you come to if you want to find out who a good divorce lawyer is, but I'm not going to give you advice on divorce. I'm the person people come to, and I will refer you to the best. It's like going to a med can or something like that, a place where you can go and you can have lots of tests, and then they will place you with whoever the best doctors are. That's the kind of thing you want to be. You want to be that person. And I think that's the thing. Be the source of the source, but not the source.
Thanks so much for your time, Richard. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
We are out of time, but if you are not yet following this podcast, please do give it a follow. I'm going to post all of Richard's links as well in the description below. And we'll see you next week on the show.
We'll see you out there. Go and sell a house, okay?